Chief. Welcome to the Sunnyside of Freedom podcast. Once again, my friend, how we doing?
Doing well. What's up?
What's up? So the last time we met, we were actually recapping the All-American Heroes trip we took out in Laramie, Wyoming at Albany Lodge. So I just wanted to touch base with you and see what's going on since then.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So since then, I've definitely re-energized. I've done some healing. I'm not in as much pain now. I certainly learned a lot and I've reflected a lot since then, and it's been amazing. But yeah, actually, it's been kind of busy since then. Um,
Yeah, what you been
yeah.
doing?
Well, I've really been focusing more on 420 Chief, the podcast, and kind of planning for that. My last day as a IT manager was this last Friday. So I actually had a farewell party with my team today, and that was very bittersweet. It's great
Yeah,
talking to them, but I'm gonna really miss a lot of those guys.
well, I'm sure. So, wow, new chapter in your life. What's that look like?
It's a little bit hectic. It's kind of a lot. I'm trying to encompass all the things that I want to do, all the places I want to wake up, and things that I want to experience with the message that I have that I believe can help people. So, trying to tie a lot of that together and not only just tell people about it, but demonstrate that message and get people involved with it themselves so they can start seeing the benefits of it.
I love that. It's all about helping people, isn't it, though?
It really is. I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if you take care of yourself first and then help your neighbor or buddy or friend or family.
Yeah. As I always do, self love starts with you so you can spread it out. Oh, look at all the hearts.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Look at
Cool.
that. Who knew? Um, I beat you to it a few times. What's going on? It really is about that self love journey. It starts with you and filling our cup so we can fill others. And it sounds like you're on that road right now.
Absolutely. I mean, once you learn to fill your cup, it's easy to help others fill theirs. And when you're
Hmm.
helping other people fill their cup, that really helps you fill yours as well. So it's very rewarding. Absolutely.
I agree 100%. So, what are your next steps? What do you got planned?
So next steps, I've got a lot of folks lined up to do interviews here in the studio, and one of the big things that I'm really focusing on is the cannabis education. So, for example, with myself, when I started consuming, I wasn't just consuming it to get high. I actually did a little bit of research and checked out some of the medical properties behind the different types of strains of cannabis and really focused on those to make sure that I got the right ones for what I needed. And to start, it was a lot of the PTSD and anxiety type of medications that really helped me get grounded to do the things that I needed to do, like
Hmm.
stop drinking alcohol, start being consistent, making the changes in my life. So I've got some folks lined up to speak, doctors that are willing to speak to the pros and cons. I've got some folks that are standing by to speak on the different forms of consumption because not everybody wants to smoke it. You've heard of edibles. There's even things
Hmm.
that you can mix in drinks, and there's even beverages out there. Chocolates, living on the sunny side, having a little bit of chocolate. They do actually have infused chocolates as well. But I think that it's important to inform people of those medicinal properties, how to track them, and find out different ways that could potentially work for them.
I think that's really important, and I'm glad you brought that up. In society, it is becoming more socially acceptable to hear the word cannabis and the medicinal properties behind cannabis and consumption more frequently now than ever before, which is really great. I think society needs to be aware. We've always had one option, more or less, within the medical field. You go to your doctor, you get a prescription. You go to your doctor, you get a prescription, and seldom do you hear about the side effects, right? Um,
Absolutely.
every action has a reaction, and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that one shouldn't be taking medication, especially if they have a diagnosis in which it's helping them manage it. But at the same time, I think we need to have an open mind so we can make the best decision for ourselves. what's in my best interest. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Certainly, yeah, and I can't speak for everyone. I can just speak to my own
Hmm.
experiences and what I've tried out for myself. But I know that at one point when I was at pretty close to rock bottom, I was very depressed, and I talked to my doctor about it, and they put me on some medications. Well, those medications really impacted my work, my professional
Yeah.
career. I was having a difficult time, just really even thinking. Like I felt bogged down a lot. And so my family even noticed it. My kids would notice it. I wasn't energetic. I didn't feel really like going to the beach, for example, stuff that we would normally do together. Um, so I had to make a change because a lot of people would say, you're just really not yourself. And I thought maybe it's because I'm trying to make a change, but I just couldn't take action. So it was really difficult for me with the prescription medicine that I was on. So I tried a vape pen is the first thing that I really started as far as cannabis. And I
Okay.
really liked the live resin. I could feel it. Um, it would really calm me down and help me kind of change the way I think. So the way it worked for me was it would kind of give me a little bit of a buffer space between my thought and my reaction time, and that kind of helped me think of things differently in every aspect of my life. At first, I would focus on maybe not yelling when I was angry, to later, I
Hmm.
can focus on, okay, here's the next logical step I need to do for whatever the task is at hand.
Yeah. Um, you know, it's interesting that you say that when you were feeling, as I call it, the funk, right? We get into specific funks, and for some of us, it can last a short amount of time, and for others, it could be a long period of time. And it's also known that we might get back into that funk. So it's knowing how to take care of ourselves and recognize what those things are. But often I do hear that, when you get diagnosed with a title um, of depression, for instance, and so you're taking medication's not working, or perhaps you're not doing well with the side effects. And that's not to say that one wouldn't have side effects with cannabis, but there's also other alternatives, right?
Correct.
In consumption, whether you're smoking, you mentioned edibles, for instance, or chocolate. I like chocolate. I'll
Even
just say that.
CBD is another alternative.
Yeah. Exactly. CBD creams. I know myself, that's been great for me when I get massages and whatnot. But going back to what I originally was saying, how important it is for people just to know what questions to ask and who to ask. There's many different types of providers in the field. It's getting that second opinion from a different approach, that holistic approach, looking into the medicinal properties of something as cannabis, to see how it helps you. And I'm happy to hear that you found something that worked for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's the catch all be all of the solution.
Hmm.
It just was the beginning of something that helped me get in a routine to take control back of my life and to make me realize the things that I needed to prioritize, and that kind of helped me to develop the steps to take for my specific issues.
Yeah. And you're right. It's not a one stop, and that's it. It's not just the cannabis is the solution. There's also work that we have to put in within the healing journey. And really getting at the root cause of what's happening, what's happened in my life, what changes have happened, what do I need to address, and getting uncomfortable with that too, which is so important. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that a lot of times people are scared to lean into those thoughts and relive them because your body doesn't know the difference from the actual time it happened and when you're thinking about it. So you feel that same
Hmm.
trauma. And I think that oftentimes we continue to relive it because we don't face it. And as you know, even just talking about that is therapy, but if you allow yourself to feel the emotion, and that's something that cannabis has helped me with, it's something that can calm you a little bit through it so that you can feel it and be okay with that. And
Yeah.
from there, your healing begins.
Absolutely. And it's not just your personal gained understanding of it, but it's also helping those around you in your life understand how it's changing your life and the benefits that it's having in your life. It should look more like, okay, Chief has gone through some changes. I can see a change in behavior, and then be able to come back to you and say, Wow, things are looking good for you. I know when we met, you had also provided me with a copy of your book, Strains for Pains.
Oh,
Ta-da!
that was cool. High fives.
High five, high five, high five. I want you to tell us about this, but what I found most interesting about this book, I was like, wow, this doesn't get any simpler, right?
Absolutely.
Especially
It's
especially for someone like myself who doesn't know anything about strains, right? I wouldn't even know where to start. So it's kind of like just go to Chief. That's how I look at it. Like go to Chief, and then it doesn't get any simpler for documentation purposes and really identifying what's best for me or what would be best for me.
I'll just be upfront with that. When I first started, I was really a little bit overwhelmed with the multiple strains because it's not just indica and sativa, like an energy and then a nighttime. It's really not.
Hmm.
The different types of strains, some of them will give you energy and it's supposed to be a nighttime one. But
Yeah.
um, I really created the book because some of them taste different. Some of them you may like, you may not like. And this is just an easy way to kind of keep track of that and have fun with
Okay.
it because, most people when they're smoking, they're not doing a whole bunch of things and multitasking. They're taking a break. They're using it for a reason to kind of calm down. And once it kicks in, there's you want to know what you're going to experience. For example, I've got some that I use if I'm going to have a long conversation with my mother. I do that in short doses, but there's been times where I've consumed some, like GMO is a good example of a cannabis strain, to
Hmm.
where I consumed that and I was able to talk to my mother for 2 hours without getting any type of anxiety, without getting upset, and it was a very pleasant experience. I have documented others that are good for cleaning. They'll give me the energy just to go inside, and I am just hammering it out. I'll get the music on, and I'm full of it, and I'm ready to go. But they do
I could have
really,
used that today, by the way.
yeah,
I was like
yeah,
Cinderella cleaning the house today, but I actually resorted to chocolate and I bought a huge stash yesterday and it's halfway gone. So, but I'll go back to that specifically for our viewers. If you're looking to clean your house, deep cleaning, spring cleaning, stay tuned.
sure. But and I wanted it to be fun too. Like there's a spot that you could just rip the label off and just stick it in there. In my personal
Mhm.
book, I've put a whole ton of stickers on. I'm a stickers guy, so I've got stickers on the inside cover, on the outside. I take the stickers off of the labels and put them in, so that way you don't have to write everything. But anyways, it just really helps you capture the types of cannabis strains that you enjoy, and it's not just smoking. Like you can do this for edibles as well. There's, indica, sativa. You can document the smell, the taste, and then the effect.
Mhm.
There's a box down below where I like to put like a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5 stars, and then there's actually the star rating below. So you can kind of use this as a reference. Like I've tried different types, but you can kind of identify your go-to's for certain things.
No, I
And
think
then
it's fantastic.
yeah, and at the beginning I did want to call out. I did put a terpene glossary, so it just kind of tells you the different terpene profiles that are in
Hmm.
cannabis and what their effects, medical application, etc. are. And then there's also 19 strains. I couldn't quite fit 20. 19 strains at the top medically reviewed cannabis strains. So those are the ones that
Yeah,
are
very
the most
awesome.
medically researched. And then
Very
there's
awesome.
just
This
to sum it up, there's just a couple other areas in there. There's an area for creativity, to where you can just take notes. You could write poetry. You could draw pictures. Yeah, just have fun with it. Be creative.
There's so much to be said about this. Not only is it simplistic, but it serves as a reference guide, especially if you're talking to like your doctor and you can say, you know what, this is what's been going on in my life. And this is what I've noticed. You don't want to just say, I started smoking. You need to know what you're smoking, which is so important, which goes back to your intro here of knowing the different strands. And then being able to document that, I think is pretty awesome. That's awesome by itself that you can actually make reference to that and then share it with a provider. Um, so this is great, my friend. I think everyone that is consuming any type of cannabis should definitely have a copy because it's great. I haven't seen anything like it. It's very unique in its form. So thank you for my copy. Um, I don't have any stickers yet, but thank you. Um, So recently shared that you had your last day with your employer. So are you excited about this next chapter?
I
How you
certainly
feeling?
am. I really am. I fully embraced who I am, and what I'm doing. And it's the first time in my life I feel like I can just genuinely be myself. And because of that, it's just easier to smile and
Mhm.
just be free, And that's allowed me to meet some very interesting people, people I certainly didn't anticipate meeting, doctors, lawyers, snowmobile folks, just
Yeah.
some all kinds of different veterans and supporters. And so I'm absolutely excited. Um, but along the way, outside of the cannabis, I also plan to meet up with veterans and different veteran organizations. And a lot of those folks have some really amazing stories, stories that you never have heard of that are probably cooler than a lot of books or movies you've seen. So I really am excited to get some of those stories out there and meet with them and some of the lessons they've learned. Because, like we keep talking about, talking is therapy, and I think their
Yeah.
story can really help a lot of other folks as well.
And I love that, right? Only because I'm running a Veterans Live every Friday now for a year. And every story matters and every story should be heard, especially if you want your story out there. And I think it's pretty awesome that you're taking this path of not just talking about it or talking to someone, but taking the necessary steps to actually make it happen and meet them, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And from your Veterans Live, I've actually met some of those folks in real life and developed some great friendships. And, I'm excited to do that more and more and even expand the family, so to speak.
Yay. I love hearing that. You know how I feel about that. Every time you guys gather and I hear that, even just last night on our Veterans Night, when you have two veterans who said, we just met once and we're already planning to meet up. And I think that's awesome. And so much of that has been missing. So you're kind of like boots on the ground. That's how I see you, like the boots on the ground.
Absolutely. I feel like a foot soldier where I'm out meeting up with folks. Being a chief, like I talked about in our first meetup, a chief, what is a
Hmm.
chief? A chief is a deck plate leader. And what does that mean? He's somebody that's out there beside the folks in the shit, so to speak, leading by example. And I take that
Hmm.
very seriously. And that, as you know, that's very difficult to live a lifestyle that way, and
Absolutely.
especially to be consistent with it. But what I found is that hard work pays off and it becomes easier and easier. Just like with anything, the more that you do something, the more muscle memory it becomes and the easier it becomes.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and there's also the difference you're making. We often talk about making a difference, and I think for the majority, it's really hard. Well, what does that look like when you're making a difference? And we can actually see what you're doing, which there's something to be said about that. It really is making a difference when you can connect with another human being, especially our veteran community, right? We often hear veterans need veterans, people need people. And not only are you connecting with people in general, all Americans, but making the time and making it happen where you get to meet some of our veterans. I've heard some of your stories and I think it's pretty awesome. I'm definitely on board. I can't wait. And I'm excited to see your journey as you interview veterans. As you know, I have started interviewing veterans. Ta da! So I think that's pretty cool. Myself, uh, I also have met some of you as recent as All American Heroes, which is something so exciting for me. And I want to see that grow too. So I can completely understand and relate to having that passion behind what it is that we're doing, in making a difference. So I want to hear a little bit more about, aside from your overlanding experiences, will that also be how you're meeting with veterans, or is that separate or together?
So I will overland on my way to and from the meeting up with the veterans and the events. The overlanding is really just kind of my personal passion, something I do with my dog to kind of demonstrate the simple life. But to be honest, I found that I'm better off solo doing that away from campgrounds and into more dispersed areas, more primitive areas. But it's kind of a time for me to unwind, to be one with nature, to kind of just be fully present in the moment. And while I'm doing that, it's kind of a focus. You're focused on building fire or cooking. Staying warm is probably the biggest in the summer, trying to get cool. But you spend a lot of your time just surviving. And I find that very rewarding. It helps me to kind of navigate my thoughts and rather than let my thoughts consume me, kind of control what I need to do and stay focused. And it's also, for me, it's been very healthy. It's easier to not eat like crap when you don't have options. When you just kind of
Yeah.
plan your meals, you know what you're going to have, and you're really limited on space when you're overlanding too. So you've got to really kind of plan that. So it's a little bit easier to plan a healthy trip.
I actually want to talk a little bit about that. So, as you know, because you duet me on a daily, very consistent, and thank you. Our mindful moments start from the time we get up and our feet hit the ground. It's like, all right, how are we going to make this day count today? Adding purpose to the day. And what does that look like? And so for me, I start with that plank, which is demonstrating take time in the morning to plan out your day. What's on your mind? What do you need to get accomplished? And too often we don't take mindful moments. So I'm hearing you say just the overlanding itself, how it's an opportunity for you to reflect on what it is you're doing, where you're headed, the interactions you've had, the interactions you're going to have. And it doesn't get any better than that when you're in complete silence with nature.
Yeah, it's just like any other hobby
Yeah.
that folks have that allows them to focus. Like crocheting, um,
Hmm.
woodwork, many different things. But it's one of those things that it's just a lifestyle where I'm allowed to just hyper focus in and um, kind of control what I need to or block out whatever doesn't
Hmm.
belong. Yeah, and I do plan to document that. I've got the Chief Overlander on TikTok, and
Fantastic.
yeah, it's
Oh,
it,
you're definitely gaining interest there for sure. They're all excited with your scenery. I've seen
it's
the
a
comments.
it's funny to me because when if you've ever been camping, it is definitely not all glamorous. It's more work and a little bit of suffer, but this peace and serenity is nice. And I definitely, certainly like being able to pick my morning sunrise where I'm going to wake up and make my
Yeah.
coffee. That definitely helps with the day. But back to what you were saying about the mindful moment, um, to kind of bring it all back together, I know after I first started, I'm sitting around a campfire all night to stay warm. I get up the next morning and I still smell like fire. Got a bit of a headache. I think this particular night I'm speaking about was very cool the night before. Um, just a lot going on. But I remember the sun coming up over the river and I had just finished making my campfire coffee. And in that moment, it was so beautiful to me. It was really all worth it. But at that time, I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about bills. I wasn't thinking about the pain or the stink in my beard. I was just really admiring nature's beauty. Like Bob Ross had just popped out and painted this moment just for me. And that's all I could think about. And without a cell phone, without TV, without, social interaction, just for a little bit, I think it kind of helped me reset to be more grateful for those small things like that. And so I
Absolutely.
really just wanted to embrace more of that life, and kind of example that because I think too often we're looking for more, looking for something else.
Mhm. It's moments of gratitude. And we also express how, get outside, get some fresh air, feel the sun on your face, take it in. Because although, we're receiving all the positive feedback from our supporters, right? When they see a video, like, oh, that's beautiful. You're by the water or in the forest or whatever it is you're doing, or your campfires, for instance. The hope is that we're encouraging them. You can do it too. It's that simple, and maybe overlanding isn't for everyone, but certainly something that they can start off with going for a walk on a trail or going to the beach, just to hear the ocean, whatever that is, because it's not for everyone. But we certainly see how I think overall people just thrive when they're in nature, most definitely.
It certainly is one of the best ways to balance. And I think even therapists and counselors tell people one of the best things to do in any negative situation is to get outside, get some air, get the sunlight on your skin. And like you said, it doesn't have to be overlanding, it doesn't have to be going far away. you can find nature very close to home. I mean, I do a TikTok video every day. I think you brought that up before, where I do my workout regimen. I do some breathe, relax, smile routine. But every day I try to go somewhere different, and sometimes that's just around my house. Sometimes that's a half a mile away at a local park. The last 2 days I just walked down my property, down the road a little ways, and found some beautiful areas. So beauty can be found anywhere, and it's not that far away.
I get that. I get that. I go to the bottom of my yard here, and I have the same. I have the water, I have the tranquility. If I want to take it a step further, I get on the trail, walk the 4 miles, and it never looks the same. That's the other thing. It just never looks the same. You can
That's the
always
truth.
appreciate it. Yeah.
I've been hiking a lot of trails, and the beauty about a trail is you can go 3 or 4 different times a year, and it doesn't ever look the same.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I definitely look forward to future episodes where I can hear some of those stories of where you're headed, where you've gone, who you've interviewed, sharing some excitement. Don't mind the dogs barking in the background. They see squirrels, they get excited too. Um, so, with that being said, what can we expect from you in upcoming weeks? Do you have any plans?
I've got a couple of trips planned, and I don't want to give any spoilers out just yet, but I do have some amazing guests that are gonna to come on the show to help break some of these stigmas. One of them is that I hear a lot is they're like, Chief, how are you so functional, right? And I think that's one of the big stigmas that people have heard is that if you're high, then you're just gonna be a couch potato. You're not gonna be active. I definitely am hyperactive. I mean, I'll still go kick Bub's butt in some basketball. I mean, he might disagree, but last time we played, I did win. But at the same time, I can still have intelligent conversation. I'm still functional, even as a parent. And it's there's times and places when and when not to consume. But I do want to break some of those stigmas that towards that. You can still use it responsibly to get your tasks done as an adult.
And I think that's so important. And I do look forward to those interviews and special guests that you have on your podcast because you're right. Often people get labeled, whether it's stoner or this or that. And one of the things that I immediately gravitated towards you was your energy. It was like here. I was like, oh my God, somebody's matching my energy, as we often hashtag. Um, match my energy, positive
Match
vibes.
my
And you have
energy.
all those. That's right.
Better
You have
together.
all of it. That's right. Better together always.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
you're welcome. But that was one of the key things that was like, I really like him. I love that he's out there and you're consistent in everything you do. So hopefully, with these interviews that you do hold, that'll start to open up the minds of many as well. I hope. But I'm a huge supporter. I'm a fan. I believe in everything that you're doing because you ultimately are, it's not self-serving, it's really about the greater good and helping others, and you're doing just that. You're leading by example, and you're leading in love, as I often say, which is so important to do, right?
Well, thank you for seeing that, and I really do appreciate it. But I really do get the motivation from our family and our friends, and especially hearing these stories of some of the folks that are going to be on the show. I'm excited to get my story out there, but even more excited to get some of these other stories out there that I really believe can even help more people and grow this network.
Absolutely. I think it does take a village. It takes a lot of us. And you made reference to family. We are a family. We're the Sunnyside family, and we're growing, and we're seeing the difference in the impact we're making in others' lives. And that in itself motivates me and inspires me to do this every single day, just like you. We get inspired, when we're starting to see the progress. Um, so you keep doing what you're doing. Keep being awesome, by the way. Keep being
Absolutely.
awesome.
Every
And
day,
I
like it or not.
every day. That's right. You got to show up, got to show up. And definitely looking forward for our viewers. Stay tuned because there's going to be more episodes where Sunny has the opportunity to bring some of his experiences right to the podcast. And of course, you can always follow 420 Chief yourself and stay tuned for some of his episodes that he has with Chief and Bub some of his new guests that will be popping on his show because I'm excited about that. So, for today, did you want to conclude with any thoughts, anything that you wanted to cap on or recap on?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me on, and thank you for always having an open and honest mind on the topic. I know that it's kind of taboo in a lot of areas, but now that more states are starting to legalize this, not just medicinally, but recreationally, I think it's important to share the information. I think it's important that people, if you're going to use it for the right reason and use it responsibly and most importantly, safely. Far too many times we hear of bad experiences, and 99% of the time it's because it was a bad environment or poor choice in who was around you at that moment. So I just want to make sure that people are, if they're going to try this and they're going to try to do this to help themselves, that they're doing it the right way.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you saying that. And on a different episode, I think we're going to dive a little deeper into Sunny and her experience and her thoughts on how I used to see it and how I see it now. My mind has definitely changed. You've definitely helped quite a bit with opening up my mind to understanding. And that's really what it boils down to, whether it's cannabis or anything else. It's seek understanding, right? You have to listen. You actually have to listen. And I've learned a lot with you. So, again, I thank you for your time. Always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And I look forward to future episodes. And for our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Leave some comments. Are there any specific topics, any things of interest, questions that you have for Chief? Feel free to leave them below. We'd be happy to tune back in and answer those questions for you. So
And I
for
would
today,
like to
my
know,
friend, yeah,
I would like to know if any of your listeners have a favorite strain. So if you've got any of those, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on your favorite strains.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, make sure you subscribe. We're pretty cool. I'm just saying. You got the
Clearly, hello.
sunny side of freedom here, and you got 420 Chief. Better together always. And for today, my friend, I'm going to say thank you. Keep rocking. You're awesome. Positive vibes only. Always better together. For our viewers, stay sunny, stay spicy. Always make it count.